Liftoff.
I just called to
To
say
say
I
I
love
love
you. Oh,
you.
you know what? That's so. Hi, everybody. I was getting ready to go live with beautiful Gail, and basically, I just got this wonderful message from a client who just sent me a Stevie Wonder song and a bunch of virtual flowers saying she loved me, and I'm like, "Aw."
Perfect. And meanwhile, I started singing, It's My Life and I'll do what I want.
That's Bon Jovi? It's my life, it's now or never.
Oh my goodness.
I ain't gonna live forever, which is
Oh
why
my
you
God,
gotta give
yes.
yourself permission to have fun now.
So, what's Saturday going to be like? There you go.
You know, it's so interesting. So this really is about empowering you, whomever is watching, whoever attends, to show up and fully express, like, allow yourself to fully express what comes here out into the physical experience, right? And I was just reading because I love to read, and it's so interesting that if you come from the lens of spirituality, which not everybody does, and I'm not here to sell you on something that doesn't resonate with you, but if you come from the lens of spirituality, this book suggests, and I quite agree, actually, it feels really good to me, that the only sin we really had is the sin of not allowing ourselves to cultivate, do the thing that comes to us in any given moment. And then instead of doing the thing, we think the thing out. And that's the separation. It's like, oh, let me jump on with Gail. But should I, and what time is it going to make an impact, right? It's instead of just jumping on and doing what we're inspired to do, we then overthink whatever it is we're called to do, thus separating ourselves off from flow.
We don't have that problem.
Well, sometimes I do, but
You,
sometimes I do. But
you,
it's I am very aware of when I do it because I sit in suffering when I do it. And then I just come
yes.
back to alignment.
Yes. So what's really funny is I have downloads all day long, all of the time. And I get these ideas that are like they're brilliant. They're a different way of looking at things. And I'll write them down and I'll start writing about them. And then the next morning I'll be like, okay, let me get back to that. And I'll read it and go like, yeah, the juice is gone. Yeah, forget it. I lost the moment. And it really is in that moment, it was important and it was really juicy and delicious, but that moment is gone. And that's the living in the moment experience,
Yeah. You
right?
know, it's interesting you say that. So I was reading many years ago, maybe a few years ago, Elizabeth Gilbert's Something Magic. I don't even remember. And it was really fascinating because she shared in this book that she had this creative idea to write this book about something, I don't recall what, and she kept putting it off, and she kept like having this, and then she met this woman and they connected, they had a great conversation, went about their ways. That woman ended up writing a book on the very topic that Elizabeth Gilbert was called to do but never followed through on. And it wasn't right or wrong, it wasn't good or bad, it was just there was that transference of inspired action because it was that thing that wanted to manifest, wanted to be experienced in this physical world that we live in. I just thought that was really fascinating, and it made me wonder how many times I limit myself.
Oh, but you see, I actually quite a few years ago was talking to my spiritual leader because I do have someone that I talk to every once in a while. And I said, the downloads are coming too fast. I have to ask it to slow down. And he said, stop, don't do that because you stop the flow. So I sat with that for a little bit and I'm like, so what do I do instead? So what I do now, because I do communicate with myself, I basically say, keep it flowing and I'll act on what I can act on. And what I don't act on, give it to someone else.
Yeah.
Just give it to someone else. And that's okay. Right.
Absolutely. So I guess, how did you give yourself permission to give yourself permission?
It was a process for sure.
I think it always is, even
Yeah,
today, right? Like, I woke up, I was going through my studies, and then I knew I didn't have clients or really like anything to show up and be present for in service for others until later on in the day. And so I gave myself a permission to be present in the moment, and that transpired into me moving into cleaning and just doing things, but I didn't think about it. It just
right,
kind of flowed naturally. And it is a continuum. This is what I want people to realize. Like, it is a continuous choice. I cannot emphasize that enough. It is not a one stop, one shop, go through the process and you're done. Even Gail and I, every day we have to make those choices to give ourselves permission to show up full out, to be unapologetically whatever comes up in that moment, and to
hmm.
be okay with how that's received with others without judging it, good or bad, or condemning somebody else for how they observe us.
So I wrote down two things. One is I think I started understanding permissions, right? Two times. One is when I finally started to really release resistance. So I understood resistance and started to alchemize that process of releasing resistance. And in releasing resistance, I, in fact, started to give myself permission to feel the feels,
Mm.
right? So that's the first awareness I have of permission. The second is I am very particular about who energetically can come into my sphere, right? So I basically block people. You can't just come into my sphere. And there's a whole story behind why I do that. And I was seeing a body talk specialist. And the first session, she said, yeah, your body's not talking to me. You need to give me permission to come in. Right. And so I said, oh, right, right. I gave her permission and then we were able to get to work. It's that simple. If you have someone who's like a vampire energetic sucker on you, you just tell them they don't have permission. In your head, you don't have permission. And it doesn't happen. So you can stop permissions from the outside, but give yourself permission. We're going to be focusing on giving yourself permission, giving
Yeah.
yourself permission to show up, giving yourself permission to dig deep, giving yourself permission to love yourself, even when you, and I'm doing air quotes, screw up, because that's a judgment. That is a judgment. And there's so much beauty in this letting go and allowing yourself to be free.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And free, I feel like free is different every day. Like, free is
Yeah.
different every moment. I really encourage people to consider what does freedom mean to you, because today it could be one thing and tomorrow it could mean something different. And that's the thing about, again, like, allowing ourselves to come from a place of curiosity rather than our limited views of what we think we know. Because if we live in an infinite experience, how can we possibly know?
And what I believe to be true or what story I buy into today, tomorrow I might look at it and go, yeah, no, not so much anymore.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Well, it's so funny. I was talking to somebody in partnership with another person, and as they've grown, what once felt right for them in that relationship didn't no longer felt right. And I simply said, well, that's so convey that. Like, deep intimacy, guys, is saying, hey, this did feel right for me, but it doesn't feel right for me now. And I want to change my mind. And I get to change my mind. And not only do I get to change my mind, you get to either accept that I've changed my mind or make a different choice. And in real love, right? You build that deep intimacy, you build that connection, you build that uh allowing to witness somebody to grow and expand and change, and not having an expectation that they stay one way. all the time. But first you got to accept that with yourself, which is all about why you and I are really passionate about encouraging people to give themselves permission so that they can delight in the joy of them, and that they can actually look at themselves and appreciate not just the things that we identify as good, but the things that we identify as dark.
And right, and learn from the dark, grow from the dark, lean into the dark, and it's not so scary. And I've used this quite a few times. A friend of mine used this analogy, and I love, 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 love it. If I'm in a room and I shut off the light and it's dark and I can't see, I just have to wait a minute and I can start seeing my way around.
Yep.
When you're in the dark, the resistance is what makes it painful. The fear of going there is what makes it difficult. It's just the same continuum as the light. Just sit there quietly and get curious. And then you can see why you're in the dark. And I'm going to put something out there that we probably won't cover Saturday, but we never know. And that is that I believe we're here because we chose to be here. And this experience is one that I choose moment to moment. And whatever happens is created by me for me.
It's very true.
Right. And
that
so
can be tough to swallow.
That's a tough one to swallow. Right. But when I do that, then I can sit there and say, what am I trying to get out of this situation? What am I trying to understand? How am I trying to grow? And where is this leading me? And I might not see where it's leading me, but if I follow the path, I come out to the light.
Yep. It's absolutely true.
Yeah. Yeah. And one other thing, this all came up this week, Kerri. It's just like really crazy. I've worked with people who love the chaos. They create the chaos. They live in the chaos. I'm one who will purposely create chaos if things get too boring, right? Just to grow and shake it up. And it occurs to me again, if I chose as a soul to come here, I chose to experience those situations in order to bring that energy to the universe and expand the universe. What a brave soul that person is to have chosen to live in that kind of chaos, right? All of the time in order to create the swirl in the energy that will expand the universe.
Yeah. Well, I also think that everybody's brave. I think that we fail to recognize the very fact that we are here is a statement and a testament to our courage and our resilience and our tenacity, So all right. So delight in the joy of you. This Saturday in Braintree. Permission. Guys, we hope to see you there. It's definitely something that has the ability to help you open up yourself to new possibilities, new connections, most importantly with yourself and then with others, and set you up so that you can really experience the upcoming moments, if you deem it in terms of years, 2025, as a year of continuous curiosity and play and joy and self-love in a way that you haven't fully felt before.
And imagine starting this exploration in a cocoon of love, love, love. Because, man, that's what this woman brings.
Well, we were both love, so
And they bring joy.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And also I do want to say we do the work. Like I have to preface this because it's just I encourage people to surround themselves with people who are willing to be messy and show up fully expressed, which means even as a coach, even as a speaker, even as somebody who strives to, achieve fitness goals, I'm sloppy. I have emotional breakdowns. I am in the weeds. But that's the gift of myself. Like, that's what I give to myself, this full, raw experience that creates my ability to love all of you.
Without, I want to say, without guilt or shame that we're feeling those feels, because that's resistance.
And without expectation that anybody be anything but what they are. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is this
Yeah.
expectation. Man, it will nail you to a coffin, that expectation.
Expectations and
And you know
judgment.
what? I've got to share with the audience. It's so funny. Right now, you and I have one person signed up for this event, and we're excited about it. Like, one person, 10 people, 30 people, which is our total capacity. I'm not doing more than 30 because I can't be present for that. And I found Lindsay Height earlier today started to like share some of her thoughts about it, and I was laughing with her, and I said, "Don't do that." I was like, "That's coming from a place of creating this expectation and this judgment about what it should be." And I was like, don't get me wrong, we're all in ego at times, myself included. So I'm not dismissing that I have moments, because I do. I was like, but where we are at in relation to each other, that doesn't serve, because it's unnecessary, like where our connection is. And so I laughed, and she's like, yeah, I get it, right? Because
Right. And both you and I said the same thing. 100, well, 30 is really, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
This has to go out there, and it's going to go out there in any way that it needs to go out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And that's a gift we give to being true to what we're called to do without creating an expectation around how it looks.
Right.
So
Right. I love it. And I can't wait to see you and hug you
I
on Saturday.
know. It's gonna be fun.
It's
All
going to
right,
be
guys.
great.
Until next time.